Hi, everyone. I'm Jennifer with BritMums, and I'm delighted to be here today with Susanna, my co-founder, and Karen Beddow of Mini Travelers.
Hi.
Hi, Karen.
Hi, nice to be here.
Hi, Susanna.
Hello.
So we are here to talk about one of the things that is on a lot of people's minds, summer holiday travel. Now, you ladies, you're family travel influencers. You love to do different kinds of travel. I have written a lot about it on your blog and on social channels, share a lot of great content. But obviously, it's been a weird time where we haven't been able to travel much. We've got the green list out there now. But I was really wondering what you were thinking and how you were planning now that we have a little bit of freedom, but it's still very restricted. Karen.
Well, we're taking the plunge, and we have booked flights to Portugal for May half term. So
Yay.
I say technically we are going to Portugal May half term. I don't think I still quite believe that we're going to Portugal at May half term, but we have flights booked, and we are flying out, all being well, on May the 31st and coming back on the 8th of June. So we actually are going Bank Holiday Monday through to the Tuesday the week after, because my children have an inset day on the Monday, so they're missing a sneaky little bit of the Tuesday. But the flight prices were extortionate to do Saturday to Saturday. So so we're taking the plunge.
And where are you going, and what will you be doing? Is it as planned out as in years past, or are you playing it by ear more? Or conversely, do you have to plan more?
Yeah, well, I mean, I have literally today just changed our plans. So on the day that I booked the flights, I literally booked a flight and I booked a apartment at Pine Cliffs in Portugal. That was safe, easy, let's just get it booked. There was not going to be a lot of availability, so I found something and I just booked it. But I booked it with 24-hour cancellation. For lots of reasons, obviously. I think the cancellation policy being the most important single thing that you can do at the moment, because my travel insurance has certainly changed in the last year, and whilst it would have covered changes, it now doesn't, and that's a kind of bank policy. So if COVID rules change after you've booked, that's tough now with my insurance. But then but then I started emailing the place and just asking what the rules were, and asking what we would be able to do when we were there and what their mask policy would be. And actually they've confirmed that on site as such, on the resort, masks will have to be worn outside. They'll have to be worn all around the resort. They don't have to be worn on the beach, as far as they were telling me, although I hear that Twitter has a different feeling on that today. And so I have actually today cancelled that booking, and I have booked a villa. And because I've decided that actually, if we can have a week in a villa by ourselves with a pool, and we don't have to worry about masks until we leave, then we will have a much nicer holiday. So even in the week since I booked this trip, it's changed again. So, and I think, thankfully I'm somebody who can deal with that. I mean, I had a trip to Turkey planned that I got my money back and immediately transferred to Portugal. But I know that, all the changes and all the, and all the concerns definitely doesn't make it a holiday for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's really kind of what it's all about, isn't it? I mean, I think one of the things is having to be flexible and really not being tied to whatever plan that you have. I mean, we usually go to the US in the summer, and I think that's my dad. For those of you who don't know me, my dad lives in California, and I haven't seen him for 2 years. And so that's kind of one of my big things. And I was really excited. There were lots of barriers to going this summer. One of them was we can't actually leave the country. That was a big one, which changed. I guess it was Monday. But all the things like insurance, tests and the costs of tests, and quarantine and the possibility of hotel quarantine. Not really sure that you just have to be flexible and know it's going to cost. And that's just one of the things that we've said is, we haven't traveled for a couple of years. It is family. I guess if I end up having to quarantine in a hotel, looking at Heathrow, then I guess that might be it.
Well, I think this is such an important moving part that families we have to think about, and especially because we have to think about not just ourselves, but how it will affect our kids, and that has everything to do with their age and maturity, but kind of also, they're going back to school. So for us, I too have family in the US and haven't seen them for a long time. We actually do have tickets booked to go back in the middle of summer. They're fully refundable. And it's that same idea that we thought about it, and I've talked about it with my daughter. And we've said, if it's not on the green list, it's unlikely we will go. At least if there's, a very long quarantine. If there's a kind of short quarantine that you can take a test after, then we might reconsider. But the idea of going on a 2 or 3 week holiday and then coming back and quarantining for, 2 weeks or 10 days feels like it's going to sap all the enjoyment out of that holiday, because we'll be, as you say, kind of stuck somewhere and not necessarily, I guess if you can quarantine at home, it's a little bit different, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. Karen, I want to hear more about Portugal. Tell me, we could live vicariously.
I think, Karen, we've gotten maybe a bit frozen. So hopefully she'll unfreeze and come back in, because I definitely want to hear about Portugal. I think she mentions some really good tips there, or things to think about. One,
the blue sky. She's turned blue for Portugal.
Exactly. Let's see if we can get her back on. So hopefully we'll get Karen back on here. But some of the tips that she mentioned, be sure and check the cancellation policy. I know we all know this at this time, but having that cancellation policy in place, and it's not just around your flight, as Karen shown. It's part of the
technology. My computer just turned itself off.
Yeah, part of the plan.
You got to be flexible.
You got to be flexible. It's like
turns on. Yeah, I said you had turned a nice shade of blue, and I thought that was in honor of Portugal.
And we were just going over some of the things you said, and they could really be, tips for the summer. Is the cancellation policy. We think a lot about the cancellation policy of the flights, but it is also your accommodation, or your ability to switch the accommodation like you did.
Yeah.
So because of things that might be in place there, getting the new insurance, also something we've heard a lot about, but it's always worth checking as policy changes, both in the UK and wherever we're going. I thought it's a really good tip of yours to reach out for the resort or hotel rules.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't know that I necessarily would have thought specifically to do that. And that's, sitting by the pool in a mask in hot weather doesn't sound so fun.
Not really a holiday, is it?
No.
And I think that, they were going to say that there's certain things where you might not need to have it on if you're on your sun lounger, but that whole kind of, if you sort of get up to go and get something and then forget and come back, it just seemed like an unnecessary issue. And to be honest, we don't often holiday in hotels anyway. We very often get a villa. And so I was, it was sort of up and down as to what we wanted to do. But it was just a very quick thing for me, because I wanted to book in something very quickly, because I knew that everything was going to keep going up and places were going to disappear. So I just wanted to know I had something booked if I was booking the flights. So I think, Airbnb at the moment is your friend, and their cancellation policy is excellent. Interestingly, the alternative, Verbo, which I think has just changed the home and away, that is now called Verbo. They have quite a higher cancellation policy, so they have a service fee that is not refundable. And even on the same properties across Airbnb and Verbo, it's cheaper to book on Airbnb, which is interesting, because especially if you really want that flexibility. So
Yes.
but yeah, I think flexibility, and also just keeping a real eye on all the different testing costs, because I actually booked Portugal without realizing that my children would have to be tested on the way out. I assumed, because the British rules are under 12s don't need to be tested on the way back in. That would be the same on the way out, and it isn't. Portugal are requiring testing for over 2. And so I can see people getting incredibly confused by the rules, because we're actually having to sign up to 3 different testing regimes. So we're having to have one type of test on the way out, which is all 5 of us, and we have to have a fit to fly certificate. And
so how are you getting all of these things?
So I'm going into a place in Liverpool to get that first one. And there's a really useful company called Dam Health, actually, which are doing buy one adult, get one child free, which is
How do you spell that?
DAM. So, and they're doing, if you pay for a full paying adult, you get a child for free, and which brings the cost down an awful lot. They're at £99 each, though, for the adults. And then
that's before.
That's going out.
And you have to try and coordinate that to make sure that you have a result within 72 hours.
So we're going
How's
in.
That gonna work?
So we're going in, and they do on the day results.
Okay.
And actually, again, another kind of tactical thing about the holiday is, because we're going on the Monday rather than the Saturday or the Sunday, there is much more appointments available for us, because actually there hasn't been a backlog in those couple of days before the main half-term holiday, which is ludicrous, isn't it? The fact that this is actually all going on in my head before I decide what flight I'm going to book and on what date I'm going to book it. I'm having to kind of backpedal in terms of availability. And the only reason that I know that might have been a problem, or that might have been an issue, is because I actually tried to do it in December to go to Madeira. And we had lots of things lined up, and one of the problems in December was actually getting a test for flying, because actually there was less then, in fairness, but also there was a big push around those couple of weeks that people could fly. So testing is one thing, flight availability and testing is another. There are lots of testing kits that you can order at home to send off. So, I get a bit nervous about that, like within the 72 hours before you go away, getting a kit, sending it off by courier, waiting for the result. What happens if it doesn't get right? You have to really, really, really want to go on holiday, or really invest in the time to get this right.
As a parent, and especially I would say as a mother, you have to get organized for any holiday. But now you have to be uber organized. Uber, not a brand name. Like so organized, because it is testing, and it is the different rules, and it's the windows of test results, and how long it takes to get a test back, and what kind, because you have different kinds of the tests. So
whole nother level of
I did actually put all this into a blog post that I wrote the other day, because I thought, as I was doing the research, I may as well set it all out. And I have had so many people get in touch by direct message to just say, thank you so much for doing that, because actually I've literally done it as though I'm going to Portugal. This is what I'm doing. This is what tests I've done. This is where I'm getting them. I put all the links into the government website. So, and with lots of caveats saying, please check the government website.
Right. This isn't a guide for everyone, but it is.
Yeah, but I think that it's kind of, because all the websites are just talking about green, or they're just talking about amber. They're not talking about a specific trip to a specific country. And so I think a lot of people, when they're thinking about their green list trip to Portugal, are only really worrying about the UK requirements, and they're really missing that first requirement about what is actually Portugal going to accept as well. And I just think it could be heartbreaking that there's lots of families at May half term getting to the airport and, you know, having done all manner of different things to get there. But I could just imagine some of them getting there and not having their under 12-year-olds tested, for example, and then just not being allowed on the flight. So, you know, and probably at that point then not being able to do anything about it. So
yeah.
So how early are you going to get to the airport?
Well, I don't think that we're going to go crazy early. We're actually flying from Liverpool and there isn't actually that many flights out that morning. And that is, so one of the interesting things about it is that, you know, we actually flew to Rhodes in October half term last year in another like little window, with a, you know, when there was only a few places able to be open. And the airport was amazing. It was so quiet.
That was Liverpool?
Yeah, Manchester actually at the time, Manchester, but it was still so quiet. I think London is a lot busier because of the international flights that are coming in. There's still quite a lot of business travel. There's still a lot of that kind of thing going on. And obviously, if you're coming in red country or amber country, then there's a heck of a lot more passport, controversy around that and paperwork. They don't have those flights in Liverpool. So actually, one of the things that I think would be a really good thing for families thinking about travel if they're wanting to do something is to think about those airports like Bristol and Liverpool and Newcastle, probably Stansted, you know, all of the littler ones that actually, I'm sure we can call Stansted little these days, but you know what I mean, the airports where actually they're not doing the big international travel because they won't have those issues. So actually, I think that it won't, you know, this is a famous last words, but I don't think there is going to need to be a considerable more time at the airport in Liverpool because I don't think that there's going to be an awful lot of other flights taking off. So, and I only think there will only be the EasyJet staff to get me on my flight. They're not going to be there any earlier. You know, they're only going to get paid for that certain period of time. So, you know, it will be what it will be. So I don't think, and it's a 7:00 flight, so it's a 5:00 start anyway. I think we'll get there, and
that's not too bad. I think I was reading just the other day, one of the airports where they said usually they'd have 800 flights going out a day, and they have 80. Yeah. So it can be, you know, of course, some travelers and some travel will be much more tightly controlled, which could cause delays. But it is interesting that, ironically, it could be easier.
Yeah, I mean, certainly, I think sort of getting through, you know, security and that kind of thing will be significantly quieter and significantly easier because of the less volume of people being crazy enough to do this.
Yes. Well, and some people will be holidaying this year, but holidaying in the UK. And I think, Susanna, you were saying one of the things you've been hearing about is people kind of hoping for an overseas holiday, so booking overseas, but then also booking something in the UK and hedging their bets. What do you think about that?
I think that, I mean, as a traveler, I haven't actually done double booking. I've done consecutive booking. So I've done UK, hopefully the US, UK, with putting in quarantine time just in case. But gosh, I mean, with that, it will be, you know, if you've booked the Algarve, or if you've booked, you know, Canary Islands, and you've also booked Norfolk, you know, where are you going to go? If you can go to Canary Islands, you're going to go to the Canary Islands, aren't you? So then what happens to the booking in Norfolk? Is there going to be a lot of sudden availability in the UK? Because I know right now trying to find staycation, I mean, forget it. I was one of those crazy people that booked in January. I really like my holidays, so a bit of a planner. But does that mean that there's going to be late availability if we can go to the other countries?
It's a very good point.
I mean, I really hope for the people who run the cottages and the hotels that actually they will be snapped up, because I can't imagine anything more heartbreaking than having a year of no bookings at all and then having a year where everyone cancels.
Yeah.
Although I did hear about a friend of a friend the other day who had a booking for Devon for something like £1,800, and it was cancelled by the place, and then they saw it relisted on the website for 5,000.
Golly. Golly. I just want to give a shout out to Carrie Bradley, who's given us a wave. Carrie, also a travel influencer. Actually, I'm just going to see. Yeah, that's her wave. I thought
Carrie, yeah.
Yes. So, yeah, so Carrie, if you have any tips too, do message them to us. And yeah, I think that we should remember that, of course, there are loads of fabulous places to go here in the UK. And there is still some availability, but it does feel like you have to be a little bit assiduous and sneaky.
I think you have to be creative, and I think you need to go north. I think you have to abandon all plans of Cornwall and Devon. I think think you need to think outside of your usual box, if that's where you're thinking. I think there will be plenty of availability in, say, Northumberland and on the sort of East Coast, and even internally up in Scotland. You have a think about the fact that the Scottish holidays are different to the English holidays, so done a lot of availability in Scotland the last 2 weeks of the summer holidays, of the England Wales summer holidays, because Scotland goes back earlier, so you can often get some quite good availability for those last 2 weeks.
Yeah,
so that's really worth looking at and thinking about. And I also think places like North Yorkshire, beautiful, really, really beautiful.
I'm dying to go to North Yorkshire.
Yeah, some fantastic beaches up on that coast, and actually people just forget about them. So I think it's really tricky, and I think you can if you're just trying to think about the South Coast, but also lots of beautiful places in South Wales. And I think also just like a little bit further in from the coast, I think a lot of people are trying to get that coastal break. But if you think about on your week, you might not go to the beach every day, so why not have a think about being a little bit further away from the coast and then just having a little drive?
Yes,
those would be my tips for the UK.
Oh, those are very good. Yes, because you can do lots of lovely walks. Even if you're not at the coast, you can do water around lakes, all kinds of activities like that, and adventure stuff that's really fun for kids of all ages, not just for young kids, but with your teens and whatnot. Carrie has this tip: accommodation is hard to find, but perhaps things like narrowboats, etc., might have something available. I'm a huge fan of staying in a pub. So you have networks like Stay in a Pub and pubs with rooms and those kind of things. And those can be great options because it allows you a lot of flexibility, and you could do almost more of a kind of movable feast of a holiday and travel around a bit and see a bit more of the country or different bits.
Also, house swaps.
House swaps, yes, house swaps. Susanna, you've done that, not in the UK, but
not recently.
But you loved it.
I did. We did Paris. Oh, we've done a couple. We did Paris and California.
Yeah, but I think there'd be some great options for the UK as well, because people are just sick of where they are. They don't necessarily need to go away.
That's what it is, isn't it? You just want a change of scenery. I mean, I was hearing you guys talk your recommendations, Karen, about up in the north. Well, I think kind of mine would be down in the south, anywhere near a river. I mean, anywhere near water, a river. Carrie's idea of narrow boats. Also, just I mean, I've seen the boat is right by me, and I see the boats there, and I see them all come through town, and those look really good. As well. And that, that's fun. I think there's something about water that makes it feel just a little bit different, and you get a different view. I think being on the water. We did last year. We didn't do any holidays except for one to Lake District, but we got paddle boards, and that was our kind of our time away on a paddleboard.
Yeah, I think also it's important to remember that for a lot of people, it's been, a really difficult time of hardships. They might be out of work or have less work, and that there are still opportunities to go out and have some fun with your family, full on holidays or days out or whatnot, to really enjoy the summer. And you don't have to go spend a lot of money if some of those bookings, like booking someplace, might be out of reach at the moment. So
camping is also your friend, apart from this weekend when we're camping and it's supposed to be torrential rain. But apart from that, camping is your friend.
And wind. It's like 50-mile-an-hour wind.
So, Karen, thank you so much for coming on to talk with us about holidays, your holiday, some tips.
I can't wait to hear about it.
Yeah, so we'll be putting these on the site and linking to Karen's post that provides all the things, all the hoops she's jumped through for her Portugal escape. And do go check out minitravelers.com for all her tips, and as well as Susanna's site, A Modern Mother, and my site, Genography, for loads of ideas, advice, and I don't know, inspiration, warnings. Ideas on places to stay, where to go, and be sure and let us know in the comments of your tips and ideas. We'd love to hear them. All right. Thank you, ladies.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks for joining, Carrie. Bye.